right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine and Pipeliner CRM, who now is Coavera. We just changed our name today. And joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Antoniette Roze, who is in lovely Lake Tahoe up in Northern California. How you doing, Antoniette?
I'm well and happy to be on SalesPOP, John.
Yeah. And you're the go-to-market expert for 6 and 7 figure professionals who want to stop chasing speaking gigs and start filling their calendars with consistent high-value opportunities. You leverage decades of industry wisdom. Your done-for-you booking agency delivers a strategic, scalable system that creates predictable revenues, world-class stages, and true freedom, allowing experts to stay in their zone of genius while building the impact, income certainty, and lifestyle they've earned. So, and let's face it, many people who fit into this category, these kind of experts, right, probably still treat speaking as a lottery somewhat. You just throw out there and you get what you get. Um, how do you help them build a predictable pipeline of opportunities, really good ones? Because it seems, like I said, a lot of people go, oh, I want to get speaking gigs and stuff, and then it just becomes, like I said, a lottery.
You are so right, John. And it there is a big difference between poking a stick at it and deliberately building that 6 and 7 figure speaking empire, right? It's a
Hmm.
beautiful lifestyle, and it's also great to know the impact that you're making. And so many people want it, but they're not really willing to make the investment that they would be willing to make in building a gas station on a corner, right? It's if you're a serious business person, then you have serious business strategies, and that includes deliberate, intentional planning and some investments. And a lot of would-be speakers don't see it that way, and it's too bad.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because like you said, I mean, if you're doing something, if you're building something, if you were starting a business, you would have to invest some money in it. But if you want to build a speaking business, you go, well, I'm not investing money. I'll just do that on my own, right? Just tell me what is the difference when you actually go with somebody like you and actually do a strategic approach to this? What is the difference between that and the people who just try and save money and do it on their own?
You said it earlier when you opened up. Essentially, you're just kind of buckshotting and hoping
Mhm.
something will land, or
Yeah.
you're deliberately creating a speaking empire, a serious speaking business. So, it's has all the same elements of any other business that you would build. You've need a solid foundation. Who's your target market?
Mhm.
Is it marketable? Is it profitable? And does it align with your superpowers, your expertise? Or do we need to redefine that messaging somehow so that there is a clear bridge? Also, you want to be the go-to expert, and that takes a lot of planning,
Mhm.
visibility, and positioning. So you don't want to be a white sh cow in a sea of white cows. You wanna be the purple cow if you follow Seth Godin. This is the premise
Mhm.
of his book I love. So that you are the clear go-to. People can refer you, you're the expert. People are looking for specialists, not generalists, and
Yeah.
that takes a lot of foundational planning. It's not a couple of hours on AI that's gonna
Yeah.
get you there.
Yeah,
And go ahead.
and it's interesting, Antoniette, is that I remember years ago. I can't remember his name now, but one of the top speakers was motivational speakers, and he explained to the audience. He goes, he goes, he's quite hyperbolic, but he goes like, I hate 95% of my job. He said, "This 5% on stage, I love this." He goes, the rest of the 95% of my work is getting to this point. I have to do all this stuff. And I think that's it. I think what you just outlined, I think sometimes people think, well, I've got this expertise and just, get me on stage. And you're saying, well, no, you have to build credibility. You have to, make sure you're in the right niche. You have to plan it. I mean, what other thing would you do? What other kind of endeavor would you just turn up for?
Well, then you need a plan. You need
Mhm.
a mapped out plan. So, Great illustration, not really related to speaking, but it's perfect illustration. My husband and I also owned for about 40 years a paint contracting company.
Right.
And the biggest calls, and usually the most prosperous calls that we would get, were people who had a paint brush and a paint bucket of paint, right? And thought, not a big deal. I can do this room, and
Yeah,
made a complete mess of it. And exactly what you said, John, the painting is the easy part. It's all the preparation to
exactly.
make it right. That's the hard part. And what that speaker said is spot on. And that's why companies like us can free up the speakers to do that 5% that they love.
Mhm.
Or if you're going to do it on your own, just know you schedule in time, or you go get a team, because this is the most vital part of the process, and you're
Mhm.
not gonna see results in 2 days. There's an
Right.
on-ramp, and usually it's 6 months to a year, and sadly, a lot of speakers give up after the first few months.
Yeah, and I guess that's the other thing. So when you're working with people, tell me a little bit about how you help set expectations, because I feel that that's all the other part too is sometimes people have unrealistic expectations. It's even like even in podcasting. Like I was talking to a booking agent yesterday, and she was saying the same. Sometimes people go, yeah, yeah, book me on. I only want to be on big podcasts. I want to be on Diary of a CEO or something. And she's going, I'm not going to book you. Sorry, you're not there yet. You have to build up first. How
Right.
often do you have to help people with, just setting expectations?
Every single time. I don't know what it is about the speaking industry. Maybe people think Anthony Robbins was an overnight success,
Mhm.
but it took him 12 years to
Yeah.
get to where he was even recognized. I've
Yeah.
had the privilege of working with his, enrollment event
Mhm.
team for several years, and so I get a few little insights, and he has no lack of motivation, no lack of confidence, and he hit the pavement hard, and it took him that long. We, as a full team, being backed by a full team, we condense that, but it still is an on-ramp. If you go to get a business loan, any business loan person is
Mhm.
going to say, "Can you hold yourself for 3 years? Are
Yeah.
you gonna be able to do that?" Right? It's no different in the speaking industry. We give a 3-year plan. They'll get some bookings, some great bookings, right, in the interim, but to have that income certainty where they can quit everything else if they want to, it's probably gonna take a good 3 years. So if you have that
Mhm.
long range vision, you've got it, because you've already outpaced most other speakers in the industry.
Yeah, no, and it's fascinating, and it seems to me as well that this is another area that's starting to blossom again. We had the COVID interruption, we had all that, but now it seems like people are really craving listening to good speakers, good storytellers, people who can make an impact. That kind of whole kind of shared experience seems to be coming back into vogue.
Well, and John, I'll tell you where the real prosperity is in speaking, and it's not being a speaker, it's being an expert
Hmm.
that organizations and corporations cannot not bring in. And in America, at least right now, love it or hate it, there's a lot of new industry coming in because of some political things that are happening. And those are companies that are spending hundreds of millions, if not billions, of dollars to build these massive manufacturing or other industries. They wanna cut a check for speed. They wanna get their people in place, they wanna have them prepared. If you're an expert in sales or in communication or in gain and retain, in retention, any of those areas, they will hire you 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, 25,000. It's nothing to
Hmm.
them if it means that they are going to have stronger teams, higher ROIs, better KPIs, right? If their bottom line gets strengthened, if their teams get strengthened, if they're losing less talent, if they're attracting more talent, that is worth that check
Hmm.
easily.
Absolutely. And tell me, the personal branding part. I mean, I'm sure that's obviously part of your program, but it's an interesting phenomenon, isn't it? Because I mean, people know about personal branding, but it's becoming more and more and more important. And now with AI, people using AI for search and stuff. You really need to be very on top of how you show up.
You do, and clear. Clear,
Mhm.
not clever. Even in your talk titles, overly clever, especially when you're dealing with corporations, overly clever talk titles are not gonna get you the gig. You're
Mhm.
not marketing to the people who are gonna be sitting in the audience. You're marketing to the person who's gonna write the check, and
Yeah.
they just wanna know, "What are you gonna deliver? What's your big promise? And what does that mean to me? What's that gonna do? What what does your solution do for my bottom line?"
Mhm.
Right, for my problem. So that needs to be pervasive in all of your languaging throughout all of the different places that you are, and it needs to be consistent. So if you go to my LinkedIn page, it needs to be speaking the same language as my speaker landing page
Mhm.
and as my website, all the different places. As long as it's clear, you will get hired. So instead of somebody saying, "Oh yeah, I heard John Golden speak. He was really great. I really liked him. I don't remember exactly what he was talking about, but I remember really liking him." You're not going to get referred, and you're not likely to get other engagements off of that engagement. Your next best engagement comes from your current engagements,
Right.
right? So if you are clearly the go-to expert for ABC and you're like, "Oh, well, but I'm so good at so many other things." It's okay. Match what you're super good at, what you build the empire you're gonna wanna live in 5 years from now, and there will be peripheral, right?
Mhm.
But always market to the core.
Right. And I guess in this, like in most things, the more granular and targeted you are on who your ideal audience is and what your actual expertise is, because you're right, because there's always that temptation is, well, I can talk about this and talk about that, talk about the other thing, I can talk about this over here. I can even talk a little bit about that. But so part of what you're going to do is going to help this person go, no, 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 let's get to the core and very, very and very targeted what we're going to talk about and who your audience is. So when you work with people, is that a challenge sometimes in corralling them into an area?
It is. So our prerequisite are 2 things. We have 2 prerequisites before you can even think about working with us for implementation. They have to be willing to do that deep work to
Hmm.
and that's a whole 4 to 6 weeks of deep work, not only with me, but my team to very much nail down what your audience is, what your messaging is for them, and how we're gonna market you and how we're gonna set your revenue. So that's huge. The other is that you are willing to have an assistant because even with my team is working with multiple speakers. I want
Hmm.
somebody who's working they're fully devoted only to you. I'm very devoted to you,
Hmm.
but not only to you. I want somebody who's also
Sure.
fully devoted to you. Once we get through that process, I can tell very clearly whether or not once we move into implementation, whether or not there's success there, where they bucking me every step of the way, where they continuously shifting their focus. It needs to be clear because a confused mind does not buy, and audiences and decision makers see right through your bluff, right? So
Hmm.
it just has to be so crystal clear.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I mean, I think is especially because we live in this world of AI and fakery and all of this kind of stuff that I think people, they want something real. They don't want fluff anymore. I mean, I think people are so and especially marketing speak or any of that kind of stuff
Yeah.
or jargon. I mean, that stuff drives me crazy. I remember here's a good one, Antoniette. I remember a number of years ago going to a conference and the phrase lean in, right, had just hit. And I sat through and I started doing a little game for myself. Every single speaker, except one, used that a couple of times within their speech. And I was just like, wow, that's quite interesting, isn't
Mhm.
it? That,
It's so true.
you're immediately going jargon, jargon, yeah, latest buzz phrase. It kind of switched me off.
Well, you bring up a really good point, and I know this feels gimmicky, but it's actually really True. When you come with an opposing view,
Mhm.
people will listen because 'cause they've
Yeah.
heard the same
Mhm.
recycled information over and over. They want to hear that you see that industry or that solution in a different way, because then maybe they can actually get that breakthrough that they're looking
Mhm.
for. So look for those things. Like, if you were to get on a stage, I would actually utilize that
Mm. I would say
as
we're
one of my
no
things.
leaning in today.
Exactly,
We're
face the
gonna lean
elephant in the
out.
room.
Lean to the side, lean out, lean whatever, but we're not leaning in, forget that.
Put your right foot in.
Yeah. Tune in, don't lean in.
Mhm.
But yeah, and I think that's it, and I think, and think to your point, I think that's why people are looking for, authentic expertise and as you said earlier, clear, because that's the other thing too, isn't it? Like, sometimes people think they need to get very clever, with their delivery. Here's the other thing that often, interests me when it comes to speakers, right? A lot of times people feel like they have to be funny, right? And some people just aren't funny. It doesn't come natural to them. But I don't care. I mean, if I go to hear a speaker and it's about something serious and it's got interesting facts in it, I'm not there to be made laugh. I'm there for information.
They're gonna spot you're fake. So be you,
Mhm.
just louder.
Yeah.
And also understand that every talk has rhythm. So if
Mhm.
you're doing some deep teach or even a deep story that's maybe a little bit emotional, make sure there's some ups, bring them
Yeah.
back up and then down. There is some rhythm, but
Mhm.
don't try to be a I'm not.
Mm.
I'm not a comedian. I'm not a rah-rah speaker. And if I try to be, it comes off as disingenuous.
Mhm.
But I am a results-oriented
Mhm.
speaker, and that's what people come for. They come to know who you are and what you bring, and that's what they go to your nourishment for,
Yeah.
right? You go to different restaurants for different
Mhm.
dishes when you need something new, something specific, and if they change up that dish too much, you're like, "Wait, wait, 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 wait.
Hmm.
I came for this," but so if you try to get on stage and be something that you're actually not, it's like, "Wait, wait, wait, John, when I was listening to your podcast, that wasn't you. I'm coming
Yeah.
for you."
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen it, and it's very interesting. And then if you have, I mean, if you are naturally kind of funny or witty and stuff, you also kind of have to control that a little bit too, so you don't overwhelm your message by, you're not a stand-up comedian at the end of the day.
And there's a difference between having a keynote
Mhm.
in a big conference where there's a
Mhm.
lot of distractions. That's much more edutainment. You do need
Mhm.
to be a little bit more
Yeah.
vibrant, a little bit more entertaining. Even it doesn't mean being a comedian, but just being a little bit m- more the loud version of you.
Right.
Whereas if you're in a conference room with people in suits and you're getting some deep work done, they don't wanna be entertained. They wanna get down to business. So know your audience and also know their language. You may
Mhm.
well, one thing I encourage speakers not to do is to have 10 talks. Have 1 talk that you fashion for 10 different
Yeah.
audiences. And you do that with your stories, your illustrations, your anecdotes, the languaging that you utilize by doing your research. You're gonna speak differently to a room full of Coca-Cola executives than you will to AI or engineering executives. Their languaging is just different.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, and it's interesting, and like you said, knowing your audience and tailoring it. I did a speech many years ago, and it was to, uh, the folks that, the electrical guys who went up poles and like fixed electrical wire and all this, like in the room. And these were tough people, men and women who were like out there doing like tough work. And so I was like, wow. So what I ended up doing, because I do martial arts, what I ended up doing is I brought a few breaking boards with me. And so to illustrate, I was talking about work relations, trust and
Right.
everything. And I said, here's what happens when you do this. And I just smash a board with my hand. Trust gone, right? Perfect for that audience. They loved it. Uh,
That you did your homework and
mhm,
it made you memorable and it made you referable. That's
mhm,
really what it's all about. Every single talk should be at the first step in a journey with you. It shouldn't be
mhm,
a one-off. That's another thing. You made something actionable, fun, and memorable, but you weren't trying to pour the whole pot of pasta on their heads because we're heart-centered people. If we're
Mhm.
speaking, we're giving, we wanna give. But it's even your grandmother's favorite dish, right? You love it, but if she forces you to eat too much, you're like, "Grandma, I love it." I
Yeah,
just that's the last way that you wanna leave your audience.
yeah.
Nourish them, meet them where they are, give them an experience, a memorable experience. They will seek you out for the next step in their journey.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point because I do see that often is when people try to kind of fire hose you and too much stuff and you get overwhelmed and you're kind of switched off by that. But it's naturally because we're naturally distracted and we have no attention spans anymore. If you hit a really good point and then you reiterate it a couple of times and then you walk if you walk away then going, okay, that's something interesting I can use.
Exactly. Yep.
As opposed to, wow, he said a lot of really interesting stuff, but I can't remember any of it now because it was kind of
Your
all went through my
one
head.
your one goal should
Mhm.
be one micro definable transformation, and when they walk away and do that thing, they think of you. So think of
Mhm.
Mel Robbins. I'm always marvel, how the heck did she get so famous with these little micro transformations because she understands. So there's one when I was first introduced to her world, it was the count backwards from 4 and say launch in the morning. I was having a hard time getting up in the morning. I'm up by 4:30 to
Mhm.
write and then meeting with clients all day long. And I was having a bit of a struggle. So I was 4, 3, 2, 1, launch, get out of bed. Who did I think about every single time I
Yeah,
did?
absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's it. And the other thing too, with how do you help people with storytelling, like with really like having a good rhythm and storytelling and like bringing that out because that's what we relate to best.
It's never about you. And okay, couple of things. Never tell a story, never speak from open wounds,
Mhm.
only from healed scars
Right.
that have an ever after,
Mm.
right? If it doesn't give the audience hope or strategy or kind of link them to understanding your solution better, it doesn't have a place in your talk, and not every story will be appropriate for every audience. So number 1, never speak from open wounds. People see that the last thing you want is for an audience to pity you. You've
Yeah.
lost. You've lost. So choose the stories relevant to the solution and relevant to the audience, and not too many. It's kind of like when you're
Mhm.
writing, you don't want to mix metaphors, you don't want too many things going on because, like you said, they're distracted. They've got their mind on many things. You may have their attention for that short amount of time, but if you try to introduce too much, you lose them. So
Mm.
stay on a theme that connects the dots from them for them.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a and that's really and that's really good advice. And I think what comes out of all of this, Antoniette, is that uh, this is not something that you really want to embark on your own. Not that you can't, but it's a long road if you do it. There's so many nuances like that you have outlined here that working with somebody like you makes a sense if you want to do this properly. Because here's the other thing. I mean, people don't know how much they should charge, how much they're worth, what they can get. Maybe then they'll just take anything and all of that kind of thing. I think, as you said earlier, I mean, you wouldn't open a store without preparation. You wouldn't just turn up one day and say, "Okay, here's my store, and I'll throw a few things in here." I mean, you would go through work with distributors, all of that kind of stuff. Same thing here. I think it's not something if you want to do seriously that you can really do on your own.
You know, y y you hit it. You hit the nail on the head. So many people want to be a rock star or a
Mhm.
movie star or a breakout athlete, right? And there are highly more talented people who don't actually make it,
Yep.
and you wonder, "Gosh, how did that person make it?" Right? And it was not about the talent, it was about the process.
Yes.
So that's where it is. Are you willing to pay your dues in the process, or are you gonna circle the mountain and do the guessing game. You're gonna cut a check for speed and get serious, invest in
Mhm.
yourself. And when I say cut a check, yes, it's monetary, but it's also resources
Yeah.
of yourself, your energies. So many I don't know what it is about the speaking and corporate training industry, but it's highly underestimated when it comes to number 1, what it takes to make it.
Yep.
You can do it, you just gotta do it. The process works when the process has worked. And number 2, how much you could actually make in this industry if you do it right.
Yeah, yeah, no, and absolutely. So I would really encourage people to check it out. And just one thing, and I say this all the time to people about, y- I guarantee you have a hobby, right, of some kind, and I guarantee you invest money in that hobby. Maybe you play golf and you pay some guy to help you with your golf swing, or you're into pickleball and you have a pickleball coach, whatever. Why don't you invest in something that puts bread on your table? Because you're not a golf pro, you're not a pickleball pro. I presume they exist, uh, but yeah, you're going to invest money in those, but you're not going to invest money in yourself and in your career and in things that are actually going to make you money.
Absolutely. Yep, and we meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
Basically, I think people need to see what's possible before they're willing to embark on it. So we do have an assessment that's totally free that
Hmm.
kinda matches your superpowers with what's in reality marketable.
Right.
So we'll put those in the show notes.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thanks so much. All of Antoniette's information will be below the video. But before we go, please just remind people about what you do.
I am CEO of the WPC Speakers Global company. I'm also the host of Speak Pact, Pact as an impact to make the greatest impact with the power of your voice possible. And funnily enough, John, similarly to what you said, I'm striking a chord, obviously. We were barely 2 years old and are already in the very top echelons of podcasts, and that's only because there's a lot of people who want this. There's just not a lot of people willing to do what it takes to get this.
Yeah.
So yourspeakerfee.com is the free assessment. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. Just Google my name, Antoniette Roze, or WPC Speakers Global, or hashtag Speak Pact, and you'll find me.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Antonia. Thank you for watching and listening. See you all again very soon. Thank you.